Hello, I'm Dr. Richard Visone, and I need to hear from you. You can contact me through my website at VisoneHolisticHealing.com or through my email, which is Dr. Visone, that's DRVISONE, at yahoo.com. After 30 years of practicing as what I call a hardcore holistic practitioner, I have a lot of information to share. So I'm looking for your input. I need to know what your health concerns might be. If you're curious, or if you have a personal interest, let me know. The holistic perspective is very different from most that you would hear. So if you want to get my take on a particular medical condition or treatment, please contact me, because I'm looking for topics to make future videos, and I will answer, of course, your emails directly. But I'm looking for topics to make future educational videos. Again, looking at the world from a holistic perspective. And I'm also looking for students. I want people that would not be afraid to take that purple pill. Looking for someone who is curious about life and consciousness and how our three-dimensional reality is manifest into physical reality. So, just so you know how I got to the point where I'm at, I go way back when I was a child. I remember when I started reading, my first really infatuation was with history, and it was because when I was very young, I read Treasure Island, and I was always fascinated with how the world looks through other people's eyes. And when I read that book, I wondered what it was like for Robert Louis Stevenson to be living in the 1800s, and what his perspective on life was when he was writing about 100 years prior to him, the subject of Treasure Island. And then I wondered what it would be like for those people that lived in the 1700s. And I was always, I was always crazy about history and understanding today through the eyes of yesterday. So that sparked my interest, and then my next adventure was biographies. I started really reading a lot of biographies. My favorite one was Thomas Edison, but I read many biographies, and George Custer, and that only made me even more interested in history. So I and a lot of it has to do with the time that I grew up. There was a lot of biblical movies that were inspirational to me, like Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments and things like that. And so my Roman Catholic roots also made me interested in history, and it brought philosophy and spirituality into the whole mix. And I was enthralled with that as a child. So much so that I couldn't have been more than maybe 6 years old before I started reading the Encyclopedia Britannica. I just could not get enough information, and I loved it. But I also had a deep interest in metaphysics. As much as I learned about science and history, I had an interest in metaphysics, and I wanted to learn more about the world beyond the physical. And so I read the encyclopedias. I was interested in history, philosophy. I became interested in so many subjects. When I was 11, I started studying martial arts. And And that helped me to actually start integrating a lot of the philosophy and spirituality with physics. At the same time, my interest in metaphysics brought me to an interesting situation. When I was 10 years old, I remember very vividly explaining to my parents how I could put myself in a relaxed mental state and leave my body and experience other things. And my parents literally said to me, don't talk about those things because they're going to put you in a white jacket and lock you away someday if you keep talking about those things. But I knew that I was able to astrally project, and I used to practice it regularly. I knew that I wanted more of the experience, no matter what anybody said. So, between the martial arts and the meditation I was doing as a child and the prayer, I was starting to integrate different things. And then, because I was so interested in history, I recognized through understanding philosophy that I studied for martial arts, I realized that everything is cyclic and everything moves in cycles and waves. And from there, I started getting interested in other things, and I started studying acupressure. I wanted to learn about meridian therapy and how the different parts of the body are connected. So, I was also involved in music. In third grade, I started getting involved in music, and by the age of 16, I was a professional musician. And music was my inspiration for bringing all the things I was learning together. And my first year of college, I had a sociology course, and our final term paper, was supposed to be, I believe, a 7-page topic that we were supposed to choose, and we were supposed to explain how the topic we chose could influence society. And so what I ended up doing was writing like a 30-page term paper explaining how music can influence a person's chemistry, physical makeup, and attitude. And so we can influence society through music and sound. So funny enough, I got that paper back with a lot of red marks on it, and the comments were interesting. The professor said that the concept was just too far out. The term paper was written grammatically and structurally correct, but the concept was just too far out. Now, funny enough, 20 years after that, we've been developing all kinds of therapeutic things based on vibration and sound therapy. So now we call it sound therapy. I used to just approach life through sound. And so then when I got involved in it's a long story. If you read my book, Hot Dogs and Healing, I think I explained it in the book, but it's a long story. But I ended up going to chiropractic school. And when I first started lecturing, people would ask me, do you think I should go to chiropractic school to learn this? And initially I would say, if I knew then what I know now, I would probably just have gone to massage school, because most of what you learn is through experience. The truth of the matter is, if I had not gone to chiropractic school, if I had not really understood and learned the anatomy of the brain and function, I could not possibly have integrated all that information into the systems that I use. When you go to chiropractic school, the first 3 years, all they talk about is how chiropractic is based on energy work. It's based on releasing pent-up energy in the nervous system and restoring normal function to the brain and central nervous system. But then before you graduate, you start taking practice management courses. And in those courses, they tell you need to wear a white jacket and you need to approach from a medical and therapeutic standpoint. You need to x-ray all of your patients, not because it's necessary for their particular situation, but because it's necessary for you to tell them how screwed up they are so that you can validate the work that you need to do with them. And so while in college, I got involved with learning network spinal analysis. And it's based on the root principles of chiropractic, which is free up the energy, restore the flow of energy through the system, clear the signals from the brain to the body, and restore balance. Anyway, my first practice, I decided by the time I graduated that I was going to be a hardcore holistic practitioner. I would not use therapeutics of any kind in my practice and see where it takes me. So no supplements, in other words, no forms of chemical stress. Although obviously, diet is worth discussion in most cases, but no supplements and no therapies of any kind. Simply hands-on energy work. And to enhance my work, I wanted to learn other systems of healing and how I can integrate them into what I was doing. Anyway, I found that it works great. It works better than any other system I've seen, because using these methods of energy work, you can't hurt anybody physically. It can only help, because the work is based on releasing tension and restoring the breath and normalizing brain function. So, in 1995, I created a seminar called Integrated Bodywork, where I traveled the country and I taught how people can integrate so many things to develop a system that works for them. That reminds me of Bruce Lee. When I was a child, everybody used to love Bruce Lee. And it made so much sense to me when I read about how he took specific styles of martial arts and integrated certain aspects of them together so that he could create a style, a method that worked best for him. And so I started learning so many things. I got attuned in many forms of Reiki. I went on a spiritual path. I integrated all the things that I learned and all the experiences that I had into these integrated bodywork seminars. And I was teaching people, all kinds of people, everyone from lay people to nurses to psychotherapists, how to read the body, how to understand the whole concept of energy, and how to apply quantum physics in their own lives. And so, at this point in my life, I realized that it's my job, it's my purpose to teach. Because the more people I can teach, the more people I can affect in a positive way. So, if you have any questions or you're curious about anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. I want to know how I can maybe help you see things from a different perspective. And if you are so motivated, I would love to accept you into a mentor program so I can teach many of the things that I've learned and experienced in my practice. Thank you. I hope to hear from you soon.